Hi guys, welcome to this two-part project summary of Project 1. What I wanted to do was to give you my overall thoughts. In this case, some of my top themes of what I saw that was good from your submissions of Project 1, and I wanted to also give you my thoughts on some areas that we can improve on collectively. And again, I just want to highlight the fact that this is collective feedback that I'm giving everyone. It might be a little different for each and every single one of you in a variety of different ways, but it is meant to be based on the overall collective themes that I've seen that we need to either talk about, address, or at least highlight in some fashion. So with that, let's take a look at the top themes of what was good. Now, in this case, you're looking up research, or looking up for research. That doesn't make sense. Hold on. In the case of each and every single one of you looking up your content, doing your research, I don't think you have a problem with that because you all were able to find relevant articles and online articles, actually some very good ones from the NJCU library, which I was glad to see, on your particular topic. So everyone, as far as I was concerned, was on topic. They stuck to an online area of interest, and we had different perspectives, which I thought was amazing and good. Again, it's what I wanted to see, and that's the beauty of having an activity like this. You have an opportunity to go in and conduct your own research on a given topic. So content-wise, things were great. In terms of synthesizing the material, many of you had what I call a good narrative. Things flowed together. In some cases, some of you I specifically wrote on your papers. Good narrative choice. The fact that paragraph A connected to paragraph B. I don't think, with the exception of maybe one particular paper, every other paper I felt was pretty much coherent in terms of synthesizing the material. So you were able to kind of bring all these different articles, whether it was 5 articles or more, into this one narrative, which I thought was good and great. But more importantly, that's something that you need to do for academic writing. So keep up the good work on that. And finally, I will say this, and I'm going to qualify the following statement. You cited your work. And that's important because I know for some of you, for many of you, this is the first time that you're working on APA citations. And for some of you, this is probably the first time you've had to really think about APA citations. Some of you, I could tell you've had at least some level of experience or exposure to some form of citation, whether it was MLA or other. But the fact that you cited your work, overall, I was pleased to see that you're taking this seriously. And this is something that not only I take seriously, but again, the university does as well. So I'm very pleased to see all those elements come together. Now, where there's an area of opportunity, and look, I'm just going to start off by making the following statement. I think all of you should be very proud of what you handed in. I think you should be very pleased with what you handed in. For many of you, this was your first time writing a paper or a course. For some of you, or at least one of you, I know it's going to be the last time as a master's student. But for others, I could tell this isn't your first rodeo when it comes to writing. And, like anything else, there's always room for improvement. So when I think about what areas you want to focus on, what areas we need to talk about, bring some level of clarity, take this in the spirit of, hey, if this is going to make me better, or it's going to help me in my future classes, or if you decide to go on to get another master's or get some doctoral studies in, or postgraduate work, this is all going to be very helpful to you. So with that, let's talk a little bit about what we probably need to work on. And for number one, I decided to classify it under high similarity score, issue, and clarification. Let me talk a little bit about that. So I did go into Turnitin, and I'm very pleased to report that every single one of you did hand in your assignment into Turnitin. I could tell you ran it. And then you submit it into Blackboard, which is exactly what you were supposed to do. However, I started noticing a trend. About, let's say half of you had about maybe 15% or less that came up as being similar. And again, that's what a similarity score is. It's checking for any and all word combinations that come up in sentences that have been recorded in previous submissions. So what does that mean? It's looking for similar entries or similar ideas that have been submitted. Now, I want you to understand that academically speaking, it is preferable to minimize that similarity score. I tend to prefer, because actually somebody wrote in one of the papers that some instructors are okay with 20% or less. I actually prefer 10%. And here's the reason why. A lot of what I found in your papers when it came to the high similarity score, it all came down really to one core issue. And that is too many direct quotes. Now, I didn't penalize many of you for it. If anything, I didn't penalize any of you for it. I may have made notations on this, but I just want to talk a little bit about the importance of staying away from direct quotes. Direct quotes are fine when you want to get a really great point across and you want to highlight something that's been very well said by a previous author. However, academically speaking, you should be thinking about taking these ideas and putting them into your own words and summarizing them. There's many reasons why you want to do this. It's good academic practice, but more importantly, when you use tools like Turnitin and other plagiarism detecting software, if you're putting in direct quotes, now for our purposes, I told you, hey, just put some quotes on it, and at least from an APA perspective, you're covered. That's true. But your similarity score will still remain the same. The similarity score will go down if you take that direct quote and get rid of it. Keep your direct quotes to a minimum. I'm going to repeat that one more time. Keep your direct quotes to a minimum. For some of you, many of your quotes were direct quotes. So your solution, your only solution at that point, is to take those direct quotes and paraphrase them. Summarize them. Put them in your own words. And make sure that you include a citation at the very end, because that is going to save you time and trouble. Because the only way you're going to lower the similarity score is if you lower the number of similar entries. A direct quote is an exact quote. So guess what? It's going to come up as a similar item. And therefore, it's going to raise your similarity score. So I want you to be aware of that. Paraphrase, paraphrase, paraphrase. And for your next project or for any other future classes I may see some of you in, I'm going to remind you, paraphrase, paraphrase, paraphrase. And when you paraphrase, make sure you cite, which we're going to come back to in a couple minutes. The other thing that I saw was issues around the running head, which we're going to get into, hanging indents for the reference page. I'm going to review proper citation formatting. That was probably something I was a little surprised about, because I provided you with a variety of different videos. So we need to talk about that. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the differences between opinions and facts and what I call absolutes, because we were definitely crossing into those areas. So as I just mentioned, I just talked about this. I'm not going to beat this over the head with a bat. But if you have too many direct quotes, your similarity score is going to come up. You need to paraphrase. So the example that I have here on this slide is Vygotsky's quote, dealing with learning being more than the acquisition of knowledge, I took that concept and rewrote it. So this way, I don't have to include a page number, I don't have to include quotes. When you paraphrase, what is sufficient to include in your citation, whether you use a single phrase or a parenthetical phrase, you are just simply putting the author's name, aka their last name, and the year. Period. That's all you really need. When you do direct quotes, that's when you have to include page numbers. And I think the biggest thing that I saw was that many of you were including page numbers. Now again, I didn't penalize you for the page numbers. I just let you know it's not necessary when you're not including that in direct quotes. But in this example with Vygotsky from 1977, because it is a direct quote, you have to have quotes and you have to include a page number. But if you were paraphrasing something, like the example I have below, you do not need a page number or quotes. Hope that makes sense. But again, keep your direct quotes to a minimum. There we go. Next page. We're going to probably get to the other citation pieces when we get to part 2 of this video. But the running head. Now this was something that many of you did very well. And I just want to remind folks that when it comes to the running head, if you look down here at the bottom, there's really 2 things to consider. There's a running head that appears on page 1, and then as of page 2 and in all subsequent pages, you have a second running head. On the first page, the idea of the running head is that it will have the words running head followed by some sort of variation of your title. Now, keep in mind that when you combine all these characters together, including spaces, it should be less than 50 characters. So you may have to either abbreviate or shorten your title on the running head. In other words, you may have to just say social learning instead of social learning theory if you end up with more than 50 characters, for example. Now, what makes it different is that when you get to page 2 and in subsequent pages, you need to get rid of the word running head. Running head only appears on page 1. After page 1, the running head is gone. And the only thing you have left is your 50 characters or less of your title. And that will appear on every single page. So how do you do this? How do you actually make that happen? Well, the biggest issue that I could see that some of you had that did create this in Microsoft Word is that you didn't choose what's called the different first page option. And if you go into the header of any Word document, you double click on it, which is basically go to the top of the screen, you double click on it. When you do that and you go into edit mode, you're going to see this section up here called header and footer tools, called design. There's a design tab. This tab under the options section actually contains an option for a different first page. The first thing that you should do before you even type any page numbers, any titles of your running head, is click on this option for different first page. What this will allow you to do is to go in and type in running head, in this case social learning theory, followed by the page number. It allows you then to go to page 2 and put in your running head of social learning theory without the words running head. Short version of this, folks. In Microsoft Word, you go into the header and footer tool, you click on different first page. This is key. If you don't select this option first, you will be forced to, well, it's not going to let you have different pages because it's going to keep overwriting whatever you do on that one page. The other thing that it also does, unfortunately, is that it forces you, it just keeps overwriting things. So the way to avoid this, select this first, different first page, go in and put your first page running head with the words running head, and then as of page 2, you put in just your title with your page number, close out of your header and footer by clicking on the close header and footer button, and that'll solve the problem for you. We're going to continue this presentation in part 2. Let me just start part 2 right now.